Fools. Welcome back to another Formula Fools podcast. I'm David, your guide through the twists and turns. And with me, as always, is the man attempting to look like Nigel Mansell.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, his name's Skin.
Yep. Thanks, mate. No, yeah, that is a key focus of mine every day.
Yeah.
Nigel Mansell.
Yeah. You always say, we grow the moustaches for my dad, but actually what you're forgetting is your dad is Nigel Mansell.
Yeah.
That's what you're forgetting.
I remember that.
Yeah. So just rephrase it next time to we grow them for Nigel.
All right. Can do. At the risk of ruining the ruse, who's Nigel Mansell?
Skin. The 1992 Formula One world champion for Williams. Let me add.
Okay.
Nigel Mansell, British racing driver.
Right. No, he's a good looking bloke.
A very good looking bloke.
Yeah. It's actually weird how often I get compared to people. I feel like that's weird. Does that happen to you in your daily life? I always get sent photos of people and it's just like, hey, you look like this guy. I found your spitting image and your doppelganger. And I'm always like, okay, yeah, it kind of looks a bit like me. It's pretty much just anyone with a mustache. I
was going to say, yeah. You've got one defining feature, which is the mustache. Yeah, I don't have anything. So no, I think there's been like a couple of like small time English comedians where people have said, oh, you look like this guy. And it's just a really thin, pale guy. And I'm saying, oh, great. Yeah, thanks. But that's about it.
Okay. Right. Anyways, I'll take that.
Yeah. Good.
World champ. That's nice.
Yeah, exactly. So from pit lane antics to racing riddles, we're here to make you laugh and question your sanity. Sit back, buckle up. It is time for Formula Fools. Oh, yeah. Know what I'm saying, Skin?
I know exactly what you're saying.
Good.
It's exciting stuff.
Oh, yeah, it is. So we're going to start things off with hot lap recap with Ryan Smith. Obviously, last weekend was the Japanese Grand Prix. Quite a bit happened in the Japanese Grand Prix. So Ryan has given himself a minute and 28 seconds, I think was the pole lap from Max, or minute 29 or something. Okay. He's given himself a minute 29 to sum up what happened. So naturally we received a 3-minute 13 video. Yeah, there's also quite a few other, but he missed Melbourne, so he needed to catch up with the boys, all that kind of stuff.
Okay, yeah, no, I have been missing this seg.
Yeah, of course you have. I was about to point to Charlie to say, hey, Charlie, play the thing, but that's Disco's job because we've got the video.
Hello, Formula Fools. Yeah, look at this. I've had a bit of an upgrade, got some lights on, hey? And welcome back to the Hot Lap Recap, where I, Ryan, slice through the Formula One drama with more speed and precision than a sushi chef at a Tokyo market. Now, I must apologise for my absence after the Australian GP. The dreaded lurg had just got me well and truly down and out. So I'll give you the highlights now, shall I? Ruddy Verstappen didn't win, and I missed it. But I know you two didn't, hey? I hope you both had a brilliant time at Albert Park. How was it? And tell me, Skin, how broad was David's smile when he saw Hamilton DNF? Right, okay, come on then. It's hot lap time. 1 minute 28.197. That's the fastest lap in Q3 set by Max, of course. So let's get to it. Verstappen cruised back to victory on his leisurely Sunday drive, leading a Red Bull 1-2 that was so dominant he barely blinked an eye when Daniel Ricciardo and Alex Albon decided to play bumper cars between turns 2 and 3, bringing the race to a screeching halt. Now, 20 minutes and a bit of barrier makeup later, we were back on track with Verstappen leading the pack like nothing had really happened. Carlos Sainz, who really isn't doing a bad job at showing what a good driver he is, managed to sneak past his teammate Leclerc for third. And poor Lando Norris qualified third, dreaming of another podium, only to find that the Ferraris had more pace in their big toe. And despite his best efforts, he ended up watching both of Ferrari's strategies work better than his own. Leclerc, on the other hand, was the tyre whisperer of Suzuka, stretching those mediums out like Disco makes his budget stretch at the end of the month. You know what I mean? But even his impressive stint couldn't fend off Sainz on fresh rubber, and Ferrari's radio message to Leclerc about not fighting Sainz must have stung more than wasabi on the nose. The battle for the lower points, though, was hotter than a bowl of ramen, with Alonso, Russell and Piastri putting on a show that had everyone on the edge of their seats. Russell's late charge on Piastri was like a ninja attack, silent but deadly. But the praise and conversation in the room should go to Alonso's mastery of the DRS window, keeping both drivers behind him playing cat and mouse while never really having a chance to pass. Hamilton, meanwhile, found himself in ninth, struggling ultimately until the last few laps when his rickshaw found speed. And Yuki Tsunoda, the local hero, snagged the final point for Team RB. I mean, they were so happy, they almost brought another title sponsor on board. Stop the clock. and breathe. Well, there you have it, folks. Verstappen and Red Bull putting on a masterclass so straightforward, even Verstappen seems bored of winning. Ferrari playing 4D chess with their strategies, and the midfield giving us more twists and turns than Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift. The Japanese Grand Prix had it all. Red flags, speed, strategy, and Lance Stroll in a decent Haas sandwich. Well, there you go. That's a wrap. Probably should say sushi roll, actually, on today's Hot Lap Recap. Join me, Ryan, next time for more high-octane tales from the F1 circus. Until then, chaps, good day.
See what I did with all them little Japan puns?
Yep.
The wasabi, Tokyo Drift. And
Yeah, I saw.
the more obvious one, sushi roll.
Yep. Got it.
Japan.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah.
It took me a little while, but
Yeah. I know, you look confused through the wasabi one.
I think that's just my face.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Right, okay, yeah, no. Good face then, skin. That's what I was saying, actually.
I know what wasabi is.
Yeah, but I don't know if you made the connection.
Okay.
So yeah, what do you reckon? Good sum up?
Yeah, no, very impressive. I feel like he should probably take our jobs really and speak for a bit longer every episode. But
Yeah, well,
no.
he needs to get his ass to Australia then, doesn't he?
No, that was fantastic. He obviously touched on lots of things, and there were lots of things about the race I didn't get. So maybe I'll just let you start from the top rather than jumping into my first thoughts.
Perfect. So yeah, from the notes that I made during the race, which you were very happy that I'd actually made notes and I seemed prepared for this week.
Yeah, that was impressive.
Yeah, I know. And they're all in here.
I certainly did not. I watched the race and then sat down to think about the episode and realised I forgot everything that happened. So that was good.
Frantically watching the highlights on YouTube, yeah. So yeah, first notes I had, Williams, obviously we hum. I'm not wearing a Williams t-shirt this week for obvious reasons. It's just a Vans one, you know, if they want to jump on board. But yeah, Williams, absolutely rubbish from start to finish. I don't think it's the team or the car. I think it's just the drivers had a shocker this weekend. Obviously,
really?
Alex, it wasn't really his fault. He had a decent qualifying and then Ricciardo just took him out, which moves on to my second point. Ricciardo hums.
Okay. Yeah, well, that was not an ideal start to the race for either of those two, I guess. What's the outcome there? Did that end up just being a racing incident?
Yeah.
So no one's at fault?
Yeah, it's so difficult. Like when I first saw it, I thought racing incident because of I think it was Lance Stroll was on Ricciardo's left hand side, so I thought, he's probably just moving over for that. But then when you watch the wide camera of it again, it's like, oh no, he's just taking the natural racing line and just didn't look in his mirror. So like Daniel Ricciardo's definitely at fault, but at the same time, it's lap one. Like, it's just a racing incident. Like shit happens.
Okay.
So yeah. Can't mean cost Williams millions of dollars, but yeah, shit happens. Probably not millions.
How do you figure that? In
damages, yeah. Like you see how the car was in the barrier and the front wheels and the suspension was all broken and everything?
Yeah.
You don't get that for free, Skin.
No, not for free. I wasn't thinking, but millions.
No, not millions. Definitely not millions.
Okay.
But a fair amount. Enough, far too much for what Williams need right now after what happened in Australia. We've just broken our car too much. Have you heard the whole Williams chassis scenario?
I've followed it loosely.
Okay, so in Australia, Alex obviously put it in the wall, broke the chassis,
took Logan's
car. Logan couldn't race. That's also not fair. Williams, come on, sort it out. Yeah, so all that happened. They then sent the chassis back to the factory in England.
Yep.
Between Australia and Japan. They managed to fix it because they wouldn't be able to get the new chassis ready to race in time. I think they've said it's going to be Miami is when we're going to have that, which I think is 2 or 3 races away.
Okay.
So they sent the chassis back to England, to the factory, got it repaired, shipped it to Japan.
Yep.
Logan then raced in the repaired chassis, which again does not seem fair because Alex broke the other chassis. I think they came out and was like, oh yeah, it's because we've not got time to swap everything back over to that car. And I was like, well, you fucking sent the chassis from Australia to England to Japan. Like if you've got time to do that, surely you've got time to, I don't know how late the chassis got into the Japan track, but yeah. So they've done that and yeah.
Okay.
We're just struggling for parts and money at the moment.
Yeah, no, I see. Wait, what's the spare chassis that's coming in for the Miami race? How is it possibly easier to send a broken one to England and fix it and send it to Japan than it is to just send a new one to the next race?
I don't know exactly what was broke on it, but like if the repair was just like, I don't really know, like welding some shit together, then that's easier than, let's say they might only be like 10% through the production of the next chassis.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So like they're nowhere near finishing it. They haven't finished building it.
It's not like there's a spare sitting there.
No.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so that's our problem right now is that we were pretty late to the game of launching our car, so we don't have spare parts in abundance like a lot of the other teams.
Wonderful.
Which is a classic Williams story for the ages. We honestly like 10 years ago, we rocked up to a preseason test, and Claire Williams, the daughter of Frank, the founder of the team, had to bring parts in her suitcase because we had no parts. Like, we didn't have parts for the car. So she like jumped on a last minute flight with literally a suitcase full of parts. Yeah. So that's Williams. Anyway, so
sorry. When did Williams last win something?
2012, I want to say. Charlie, look that up. I think it was 2012.
Won a race.
Yeah.
Okay.
That just a race.
And a championship?
No, yeah. We did not challenge for a championship. I think the last time we were challenging for a championship was late 90s, early 2000s. Jacques Villeneuve was probably our last world champion or challenging for a world championship. So yeah, it was a long time ago.
Okay, understood. And this season they're on 0 points. Is that correct?
Yep.
Nice.
Skin, you know what? You're going the right way to just getting fired from the Formula Fools podcast. I mean, if you get fired, we lose all concept of Formula Fools. But
my job is to ask questions, and I just wanted to double check how many points they were on.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Reasonable.
I think Charlie's got the answer for the last win.
So I've got a few things.
Yep.
The last win was 2012 Spanish Grand Prix.
Yeah, Pastor Maldonado.
And the little update, the 3 crashes for the year they estimate is going to be total cost of over 2 million.
Christ almighty.
Over 2 million. That hurts so much.
Okay.
Anyway, talking about humming, Alpine, they hum, but not in a crashy kind of way. They just hum because their car hums, and their drivers are struggling, to say the least, at the moment with how bad this car is. I mean, Pierre, he had a radio message at the end of the race that was like, "Oh, let's keep going, let's keep fighting. Like we're getting better, blah blah." And he's really trying to motivate that team, but it's just quite demoralizing when you hear things like this.
Okay, Swan, we need to push now, please. Push now. I am pushing. What are you talking about?
That's exactly what
It's exactly what you said. Yeah, literally.
What's the point of that conversation?
We had so many people commenting that were like, "Oh, you guys don't know anything about Formula One." And then this happened at the weekend. I was like, hallelujah.
What the
Like
heck?
the exact thing you said happened.
Yes. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, poor old Alpine.
Yeah, very poor old Alpine.
Sorry, just to go back to Williams.
I'd rather Skin. I didn't bring Williams up in last week's podcast because I cry into my pillow every night, and now you are just doubling down.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry, but I'm not. But so we had mentioned the crash at the start of the race.
Yeah,
we never even got to.
No, because I didn't want to talk about it. Okay,
yeah, so old mate that's left in the race, Logan Sutter, he crashed right towards the very end.
Yeah, and
he just
do you know what?
Straight in the wall.
I was so out for the first time ever in my life. I was cheering for Logan, and I was like, "Come on, like P12, P13, whatever he was, he's doing so
he was
well."
going all right,
I was like, "This could be his best race ever." And then Degner won. Like from the moment they played that replay, I was like, "That is way too much speed through that first corner." And then as soon as he braked into Degner 1 and 2 are the corner names.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. You looked very confused.
Yeah, I'd had no idea what you were talking about. I sort of deduced that.
Yeah. Oh, deduce. Good. Yeah. Very good. So yeah, into Degner 1, he was carrying far too much speed. As soon as he hit the brakes into 2, it just, his right hand axle, it's not an axle. His right hand side, like both tires just locked and just into the gravel.
Gotcha.
Anyway, let's move on to Haas, where I put my foot in my mouth at the beginning of this podcast because I said they were going to suck this year. They're looking pretty good.
Yeah, mate, they're scoring points.
Yeah.
They're doing it.
They are doing it.
You spoke so confidently about it. It was like it was assumed knowledge.
Yeah,
it was like that was my first learning of F1 is Haas are coming last this year. Everyone knows it. Lock it in, and they've scored points in 2 races.
2 races.
2 or 3 races.
They've had a double points finish, and Hulk got 1 point as well. So they're on. I think they're on 4 points. And then in this race,
they might win.
Sure. They might win. We've got a bit more about Haas coming up later, so I don't want to spend too much time on them. McLaren, your team, Skin.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like them.
Yeah, you might like them, but their strategy was not the best.
Why is that? What? Yeah. Talk me through their strategy.
Yeah.
Well, they were just okay, weren't they?
They were just okay. Yeah. Very much like looking at qualifying, Lando should have podiumed. I think he should have podiumed because I think he was looking faster than the Ferraris. But then the moment the race started, it was very clear that was qualifying pace. That was 1 lap pace.
Yep.
And over the race, Ferrari were just a lot better on tyres, which I feel like we kind of saw something similar in Australia with Lando and Oscar both struggling when they went on the hard tyres. Whereas this race, it was just like from the first lap, Ferrari looked like they were pushing hard and could push the tyres. And apart from Leclerc, we'll get onto that in a sec. But but both McLarens just couldn't. Like they just couldn't lean on the tyres as much. They just couldn't push it that as hard as the Ferrari. Right. So yeah. But yeah, like you say, I think they had an okay race. I think Ferrari just made them look bad because obviously Leclerc starting P8, moving to P4, and Carlos going from P4 to P3. Leclerc was the only person in the entire race to make the one-stop strategy work. So both of their strategies was a split strategy. Leclerc was going like super slow, I'm using air quotes, to preserve his tyres, whereas Carlos was pushing a bit harder to get past Lando, to get past the Aston Martin, and like, you know, to repass all of them after pit stops and things like that, and just made it work by pushing hard. So clearly that Ferrari is good in both scenarios of preserving tyres and pushing and leaning on tyres a bit more, which is great for them going forward. Yeah,
no, that seemed like quite good news. One thing I didn't get about that Ferrari performance, Leclerc got sort of like, there was a bunch of praise about how well he drove, and it seems good. Not criticising his drive at all, but he won that driver of the day vote and things like that, but literally got overtaken by Sainz and lost to Sainz. Yeah. Does that not seem odd?
It does, but Sainz started in P4 and Leclerc started in P8. So like naturally, like if there's 3 meters between each grid box or whatever it is, he's already starting like so many meters behind. What's that? 15 meters behind or something. So like it's a fair distance to be starting behind. Okay. And then for him to make the one-stop strategy work when everybody else on the track was struggling to keep tires alive, it was just very impressive driving. Like he kept his car under control. He didn't fold under pressure during that first very long stint. And then when it mattered in the last stint, he made sure he wasn't like too slow for the other cars, for the McLarens to catch him back up. So yeah, he just pulled a blinder of a strategy. And when we see, I'm so glad he got driver of the day, because when we see a driver do something that impressive, it's good to see that they're actually getting the reward for it. But if you listen to his team radio, he was very disappointed that he didn't podium, that Carlos passed him. And like, even though he definitely had the best race of everyone on the grid, it's crazy to hear him being disappointed in that. Merc, basically no man's land. They didn't impress at all during any of that. Chose the worst strategy possible during the red flag, and then just had to go way too slow. Hamilton was even calling for them to change the strategy mid-race. Yeah.
Weren't they trying to make a one-stop strategy work? What do you mean they chose the wrong strategy during the red flag?
Well, we had the red flag on lap 1, and then they decided to go, I think they were starting on mediums, they decided to put hards on, so that was their one tyre change. Because under a red flag, you can change without losing any time, because everyone stopped. So they put the hards on, and it was like, are they going to go for a one-stop strategy here? Like, are they going to, like, not as in that was the one-stop, but they were going to try and push them hards from lap 2, basically, to lap, I don't know, 40, 45, whatever, and then go to the end on some softs or some mediums. And it was just like, that is never going to work. Like, the degradation was so high. It was a stupid strategy. Okay. Gotcha. And so they were just far too slow in the first stint. And when Hamilton called for them to change the strategy, that was him just being so fed up. So yeah, that was Merc. Aston Martin, they brought us potentially the best team radio of the year. I know we're only 4 races in, 5 races in, whatever it is, but this has got to be a contender for best radio message of the year. Hit it, Charlie.
Cross.
Yep.
So he's just chucking a tantrum basically about.
Oh yeah, he's off it.
Okay.
Yeah, and especially when you look at Lance Stroll finishing in P12, and I think he was overtaking K-Mag in the Haas when he gave that radio message, which is like, you'd consider Haas to not be the fastest in the straight line, especially compared to an Aston. Yeah. And so like, pretty concerning that they did that, and even more concerning that Fernando was in P6. Yeah. Yeah. So
there's a massive difference between those two, Fernando and Stroll. Huge. And he's arguing it's a difference in the cars, I guess.
No. So for this weekend in particular, Fernando, I think both of them had new aerodynamic packages. I think Lance got the aerodynamic package first in free practice, and then Fernando's was fitted just before qualifying. But what they decided to do was Fernando was running a skinnier rear wing. So obviously the thinner your rear wing, the less drag you're creating. So it means you get faster in a straight line. Whereas Lance had a thicker rear wing. When we go to Monaco, you'll see the big difference between skinny and thick rear wings. But yeah, like actually you'll see it this weekend at China. I imagine they're going to run fairly skinny. So yeah, they were on very different aero packages. So what Lance was referring to was that his aero package was shit in a straight line, but in the corners he was super quick.
Okay, so that shouldn't really explain the massive difference between them, should it?
No,
he should make up any ground around corners that he loses on
lap time wise, they should be similar because Japan is a lot of corners and a few straights. So like, yeah, they should have been fairly similar on lap times. The difference is that Fernando Alonso is one of the best drivers of all time, in my opinion, probably the best driver of all time, and can get into any kind of machinery, no matter what kind of motorsport it is, and he can do really well.
Okay.
Whereas Lance isn't as talented. He's not got that natural ability to make anything work.
Sure.
In my opinion.
Okay. Can you explain what Fernando did? Because everyone was obviously raving about his drive, particularly toward the end of the race, where he was sort of just staying closely in front of the people behind him, somehow not letting them overtake him or something. I just didn't understand why not just drive faster and be further away from them.
So his tires were going off like fairly quick at the end of the race, and he knew that if he could have driven away from, who was it? Was it Oscar? Who was behind him? It was Oscar. Yeah. So yeah, he knew that he could pull away from Oscar. The problem was the Mercedes had pitted real late when they decided to just go with a two-stop strategy. Mm-hmm. So George was on real fresh tires at the end of the race, and had he pulled away from Oscar would have then been easily overtaken by George, and then George would have easily caught him and overtaken Fernando. So what Fernando did was, to help Oscar defend against George, he held back, gave Oscar the DRS to help him defend against George. So along the straights, Oscar would go faster in the straight line using the DRS and slipstream off Fernando. So Fernando's thinking, he's not thinking about Oscar behind him, he's thinking about George behind Oscar and what George is going to do to Oscar and then do to him in the future. Okay. And this is why just Fernando...
giving Oscar the DRS, keeping Oscar in front of George, meant that George also couldn't overtake him.
Yep.
Nice.
Which he did in the end, but it was way too late and it had cooked George's tyres because he was battling for so long. Okay. So he didn't then have the legs to go and attack Fernando.
Gotcha.
And this is why Fernando is one of the best drivers. He's so smart. His racecraft is just unbelievable.
Yep. Well, that's too smart for me. I did not work that out.
And I just want to finish with Lewis Hamilton actually sent us a little question in. He actually didn't. This is just me trying to frame it as Hamilton sent us a question. Hamilton sent us a question in for you, Skin. I want you to try and answer this one because you've got such good F1 knowledge.
Oh,
now.
Yeah.
Like you're basically a guru at F1. Yeah.
My area of expertise, obviously.
Exactly. So I wanted to just know if you could answer this question from Lewis.
Okay, Lewis, so that's half a second to Verstappen.
There's a half second, man.
I can barely even hear the question. What's he say?
He said, "Where's that half a second, man?" So I wanted to, do you know where the half a second is from Lewis to the rest of them?
No. What do you want from me?
That's all I wanted from you.
Okay, Dave. So we've sort of probably touched on it a fair bit already, just talking about the Japan race.
Yep.
And which makes sense because it was probably the first time I really started giving any thought to what we're about to talk about was watching the Japan race on the weekend. It's essentially sort of all the teams. And yeah, I think it's probably time that we do a bit more of a deep dive into this. But yeah, essentially just all the teams' sort of race strategies and in particular tyre strategies.
Yeah.
As they sort of try and win, I suppose.
Yeah. I
feel like I kind of need a better understanding of what the heck's going on there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So feel free to explain that to me. I mean, I sort of get the idea, right? So, a race strategy, you're sort of trying to model like your lap times and your pit times and things like that, and essentially just come up with some strategy that minimizes them, right?
You're exactly.
As fast as you can.
Yeah.
And probably, am I correct in saying that the main thing that would impact that is your tire strategy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
100%.
Yeah. So obviously I think we've mentioned before about you've got your soft, medium, hard tires in every race.
Yep.
and you just get to make a decision about which tyre you use for which laps. And
Yeah. So ahead of each race, Pirelli will ask each team how many compounds they want to take of each of them 3 compounds. So soft, medium, hard. And most teams are going to go for less hards, a medium amount of mediums, and more softs. Because especially tracks like Monaco, where qualifying matters so much, your soft tyre is always going to be your fastest one, whereas your medium is going to be your slowest one. You all right?
your medium's your slowest one?
Sorry,
Hards.
your hard's your slowest one.
Okay, your hard's your slowest one.
Good reaction there, because I didn't even think. But yeah, so your soft will be your fastest, your hard will be your slowest. So usually you're going to go more softs, less hards.
Okay.
Because
why is that? Do you understand why that's the case? Softer tyres are faster.
It's just the rubber. So when we say soft, medium, hard, it's literally in regards to the rubber and like the softness of the rubber. So it's soft rubber, medium rubber, hard rubber. Hard rubber will last longer, degrade slower because it's just harder rubber, which is like road tires. They're built to last for a very long time and through a lot of kilometers. Whereas if you go for race tires for cars, so like Pirelli do like their like race tires, which you can put on performance cars to go to tracks and stuff, they will be softer compounds. So you're going to get better lap time. They're going to degrade faster. You would not run that on your road car. See what I'm saying?
I do.
So it's literally just the rubber is softer.
Okay. Which gives you better grip on the track?
Yeah.
And lets you go faster around.
Yeah. So
like that.
think of it like if you've just got a standard tire and you are driving around a track, how sticky that tire is to the tarmac, because the tire is your main point of contact with the road. So it's the only thing on the car that actually is supposed to touch the road.
Mm.
So because of that, you want that to be as sticky and grippy as possible to the tarmac.
Mm-hmm.
So the softer it is, it's going to, as it heats up, it's going to almost like melt into the tarmac and have more of a surface area on that tarmac to grip and push you forward. Whereas the harder it is, it's got a higher burning temperature. So it's not going to grip as easily. And it's going to take longer for it to grip up because it takes longer for this harder rubber to heat up.
Okay, sure. So then what are some race strategies or tyre strategies that you commonly see throughout races?
Yeah, so in Formula One, it's fairly basic. The main strategy you're going to see throughout a season is a one-stop strategy, which is going usually around the 50% mark of the race. So like, let's say you started on a medium compound tyre because you want something that's not going to degrade too fast, but something that's going to grip fairly well at the start of the race so that you can get off the line well and potentially battle into turn one. So usually people are going to start on a medium tyre and they're going to run as close to the middle of the race as possible. Some tracks, they might run like a third of the race and then they'll put hard compound tyre on and then go to the end. So that's kind of your standard one-stop strategy.
Mm-hmm.
We do see differences there where people will go long, is what they'll say. The commentary team will say, they're going to go long in this stint, like what Charles Leclerc did.
Mm-hmm.
And that just means if the standard life is 12 to 20 laps, we might see them push to 22 to 25 laps on that set of tyres to go long and try a different kind of pit stop strategy to get out of sync with everyone else. So you can then have like a clean track and you've not got traffic in your way and all kind of things like that. Another strategy is a two-stop strategy. That's where you'll go. So that's what we had in Japan this weekend. So you'll go maybe a third, then another third, then to the end. So 1/3 of the race, stop. Sorry. So if you start on mediums, you'll go a third into the race, stop and put mediums on again, go another third into the race, and then stop and put hards on, or softs if you want to run along in your first 2 stints and have a smaller stint at the end, and then go to the end of the race. The reason you would put hards on is you just have to change to a different compound of tyre. So if you start on the hards, you've got to do soft or medium at some point in the race.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying.
Good.
Okay. So if you were doing a two-stop strategy, why would you go? I get why you would change tyre, obviously, because you have to. Why would you go medium, hard? Would you not want a soft at some point? Like if they're the fastest tyre.
Yeah.
Surely.
Usually if it's a 2-stop race, usually unless you're going to go medium, soft, and you're going to extend your first 2 stints, and you're going to run longer than what the quote unquote tyre life is that Pirelli give you, which is just kind of a guideline. If you're going to do that, then you could run soft because your last stint is going to be a lot smaller. because your softs are going to degrade and fall off the cliff, like lose performance real quick. So in that circumstance, you would do that, but usually that's not the fastest way to the line, because it usually means you've got to go slower in stint 1 and 2 to then just have one stint going faster. So a third of your race is fast, whereas 2/3 of your race could be slow. So you could end up losing track position on track in your first 2 stints, which is basically what we saw Mercedes do this weekend. Lewis and George were running far too slow to try and make the one-stop work after the red flag.
Yeah.
And Lewis was screaming to change the strategy simply because they would have given him a delta lap time to perform at each lap. And that was losing them positions. Like we saw Sergio Perez pass Lewis Hamilton through 130R. It was an insane overtake, but it was helped because Sergio was on pretty fresh rubber and they were managing old hard rubber. So, yeah, their performance was shit because the strategy was shit because they were on the wrong tires at the wrong time, doing the wrong kind of lap times. So that's prime example of why you don't always choose your soft for your race. You know what I'm saying? It's very, very complicated. Okay. And also like the most talked about thing during a race weekend with the commentary team is tire strategy. A lot of F1 fans hate it because it's fairly boring, but also it's very fucking complicated. So if you don't get it straight away, the more races you watch, the more times you see it, you'll get used to what I'm saying. And like a lot of it will make a lot more sense as you go.
Okay, sure. I do sort of follow what you're saying, but so are you suggesting soft tires are not used that commonly? Is that
in a race? They are, but like rarely. I'd say medium hards are they're your race tires.
Sure.
Your softs are more qualifying.
Because I guess the way I'm thinking about it would be if you're going to do a 2-stop strategy to try and beat someone, you would want your soft tires for as long as possible so that your lap times are fast enough to make up the time that you lose by doing an extra pit stop. No?
Yeah. But the problem is that soft tires usually, a track like Japan, you're probably going to get like 3 good laps out your softs, and then every lap after that they will degrade. So we call it falling off a cliff. So when they fall off the cliff, the tire temperatures will start to drop and the rubber just stops becoming grippy. Okay. And that's where you get marbling and degradation and like the tire actually starts breaking away, and so you start losing more grip from that. So each lap after its optimal performance, it's just going slower and slower.
Okay. So
even though soft is faster, it's designed to be faster for a small period of time.
Okay.
Whereas the medium hard are designed to be or like the harder you go, they're designed to be faster for a longer period of time because they don't degrade as fast.
Okay. Yeah. So you mentioned something about like on a track like Japan, you might only get through like a couple of laps on your soft tires. Right? What is it about Japan and what other tracks are there that are like that? Is it essentially just a really rough road?
Yeah, it's the tarmac that was used. It's the age of the tarmac. It's the corners that we have. So if like after turn 1, you've got all the center S's and all that weavy kind of, left, right section. That's just real hard on tires because you're changing direction a lot. So you've got after turn 1, which is a long swooping right-hander. If you're swooping right-hand, you're putting a lot of stress onto your left-hand tires. And then we go immediately, you've got to swap over to the other side of the track, turn left, turn right, turn left, and I think you turn right again. So that constant change of direction, you've got to think the tire is constantly being dragged across tarmac like this. So if you're doing like 90-degree corners, every single corner, it's minimizing how much you've got to drag that along the corner and put stress onto one side. So over the straights, you can then save your tires. Whereas going left, right, constantly swerving and like adding throttle, taking throttle, braking, like that's just going to drag it more, and it's going to just pull the tires apart and just like heat them up and just make them degrade. So it's all about the surface. And then other tracks that do it, Silverstone is an absolute bastard on the tires. We've had a few years where drivers have popped tires. Like I think it was 2012 or 2013. We had like 5 drivers pop their tires in one race. It was weird how many times it happened. And then we also I think it was 2020, Lewis was winning the race and like by a fair margin, by like 20 seconds or 15 seconds or something. And Max was in second. No, Max was in third. Bottas was in second. So 2 Mercedes and a Red Bull. Mm-hmm. Bottas's tires popped. He went off the track. Max passed him on the second to last lap. On the last lap, 4 corners to go, something like that. Lewis's tyres popped. Lewis limped home and won the race by like 3 seconds. Like Max was so close to catching him, and Lewis crossed the line with a pop tyre because the degradation was so high and they just miscalculated it.
Wow. Okay. And so it's on tracks like that where degradation is really high that you often see the 2-stop strategy. Yep.
Yeah. Whenever we say it's a high deg circuit, it's always 2 stops.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then, all right. So, and then outside of tyres, there are obviously probably lots of other things that would impact team strategies, I assume.
Yeah.
Obviously people talk about like how much fuel you carry is one thing. Obviously that weighs something, which you try to minimize, I assume.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Yeah.
But then probably the other big one, correct me if I'm wrong, but from my understanding would be like banking on safety cars.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. And tracks like Singapore and potentially Spa, they will try and undercut the fuel where they think that there's a high chance of a safety car. Mm-hmm. So they'll estimate this is how much fuel we need to get to the end without a safety car. They'll underestimate that, or they'll hit that to the exact mark. And they also have to have a sample of fuel in the tank at the end. Otherwise they're disqualified. So they have to prove to the FIA that they're not using fuel that is better than other fuel and like is going to make your car perform better. So yeah, races like that, we'll see them kind of like on the limit. And if there isn't a safety car, you'll then see them like fuel saving, lifting and coasting into corners, things like that, using engine braking instead of actual braking, so they're not on the throttle as much.
Okay. And then outside of fuel, does a safety car? How else does a safety car impact your strategy on the day? Would it impact your decision about what tires you use or how many pits you use?
Absolutely. Like yeah, we've in 2011 in Canada, Jenson Button pitted 5 times and won the race. Yeah, I think he was also last in the race twice. And in 2020, Sergio Perez on the first lap was in last position, won the race because we had a safety car.
Okay.
So yeah, massive. It can be a massive decision maker with your strategy. So you could go into a race saying, "Oh, we're going to 1-stop this race," but then you get a safety car 3 laps before the pit window opens for a 1-stopper, and you go, "Oh, let's pit now." And then you might get another safety car, or you might get a virtual safety car, or something later on where you're like, degradation, like we're on the cusp to finishing this race. We'll pit again. We'll put softs on, or we'll put another set of mediums on. Okay. And yeah, like
so, you can essentially just pit under a safety car without losing much time. Is that the idea?
Yeah. So standard pit stop's going to cost you anywhere from 20 to 28 seconds, let's just say, depending on how fast you are, depending on the length of the pit lane, things like that. Whereas under a safety car, you can pretty much cut that in half and say, because all the cars on track are going slower, they're going to a speed that's closer to the pit lane speed limit. So you're going to just lose less time to all the cars around you when you go in the pits on the safety car.
Okay. Brilliant. And then last couple of questions. Do teams generally use the same strategy for both of their drivers? Or do you often see someone take a more aggressive strategy with softer tyres or things like that, and the other be a bit more conservative, or what's sort of a normal approach? I know you said Ferrari had 2 different strategies on the weekend, didn't they?
Yeah, so Ferrari did the second one you just said there, where they went pretty hard with Charles' strategy, where he was pushing and he was like doing good lap times. Like every single lap was a fairly decent lap time for race pace. And then Charles was super conservative, just like probably was doing a bit of lifting and coasting and just like preserving his tires to make sure they would last to the end of the stint for when they wanted. Teams, it just depends. It depends where you qualify, basically. So they'll never know what the strategy is until Saturday night or Sunday morning. So overnight on the Saturday, usually the team's back in, because what you've got to think as well, you've not just got the teams at the track. Like you could take 300 people to a track for each race team. There is probably then another 300 people back at the factories in the UK that are sat analyzing data live as a race is happening. So you're probably, what you see at the track is not the entire picture. So let's say you're in Australia, for example, where like the time difference is so dramatic to the UK that they can finish qualifying and then everyone in the UK can just spend an entire day working on the strategy for the race the next day. And they'll kind of do it like that. So they'll have teams of people just working on that back home and coming up with strategies from A through to D.
Yeah. Okay.
For how races can play out. So yeah.
Okay. Brilliant. And then lastly, the other thing that I've sort of heard plenty about watching the Japan race on the weekend, but didn't really understand is undercutting and overcutting.
Yeah.
What the heck is that?
So An undercut is when, let's say there's two cars in first and second place.
Mhm.
You're the second place car and you're 3 seconds behind the guy in first place. If you want to try and overtake him, but you're struggling to catch him back up on track, but your actual like lap times are fairly similar, you could try an undercut strategy. So that's where you pit first. So let's say the pit window is 10 to 15. You could then say, I'm going to pit on lap 10, which is the earliest of that pit window, expecting for them to go in the middle of that around lap 12 or 13. Okay. So you pit earlier, come out on fresher tires. You're then going faster on your first 3 to 5 laps, let's say. And that car is going at that other race pace, which is slower than what your new race pace is. So you could then, in them 2 to 3 laps, close that 3-second gap you had to the car ahead because you're going faster on newer tires and on fresher tires. So that's an undercut. So then when that car would pit, you would come out ahead of that car because you've undercut him. You've gone to fresh tires early and you're going faster earlier. Downside is then your second stint, if it's a 2-stopper or if you're going to the end of the race, towards the end of that second stint, you're going to be slower. Okay. So you've got to take that into consideration when you are trying an undercut. Okay. An overcut is the exact opposite of that. You stay out on track for longer and you do a more average race pace. So instead of going for like your first 5 laps are fast, you average that out over however long it is and you go long into your stint. All the cars around you will pit earlier. You've got free track, you've got cleaner air, and you just race every single lap on a bit more average lap time, preserve the tires, and then pit and go and overcut them and like come out ahead or either come out ahead of them or, which is what Charles Leclerc did, come out and have faster tires on a shorter period of time towards the end of the race.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying. Thanks for checking.
No worries. Okay, so I'm going to move us on after that to a little segment we like to call Catch Up with the Haas Chap. Got a couple of videos to show you skin. At the beginning of the season, I said that Haas are going to be nowhere, and so we probably need to like put our arm around him and just make sure he's doing okay. The exact opposite is happening. The guy's fine and he's dominating, and I'm the one that needs an arm around me. And no one has offered yet. So got a couple of videos. The first one is kind of how he's reacting to this season so far.
Everybody's called me batshit crazy for thinking that Haas are going to be anywhere other than 10th this year. And I'm very glad to say that I think you can all go fuck yourselves. We have had a masterclass in strategy in Jeddah. We have had a double points finish in Australia. We have had an amazing turnaround from a P18 start for K-Mag and finishing in 13th. And Nico Hülkenberg managing to get all the way to 10th at the restart, having an anti-stall, dropping him back to 17th or 18th, and then going all the way back up to P11. If he had been pitted a couple of laps earlier, there is no doubt in my mind, and from a lot of other people's minds, that he definitely would have passed Yuki Tsunoda. Skin, I know you've decided to put your flag in the McLaren camp, but I'd just like you to consider at least having a second team. There's plenty of Formula One fans who support multiple teams, as you saw at the Australian Grand Prix, and I'd like to pitch to you the Haas F1 team. Yes, okay, we don't necessarily have the most amount of money towards our budget cap. And admittedly, there have been some questionable choices with driver signings. I don't think anybody can really ignore Haas and their performance anymore. Ayuki Komatsu coming in has definitely shown that there is a good trajectory for this team, that there is hope, there is promise, there is something to hold on for. And that goes for everyone else out there. Give Haas a chance. They will absolutely deliver to the best of their ability. And I'm sorry. I know as a Haas fan, I've been in this situation many times, so I know how it feels. But isn't it really fucking funny about how bad Alpine is?
Oh, that's good.
That is good.
That is good gear.
Yeah, that's nice. I like the little disclaimer on give Haas a chance and they will absolutely deliver to the best of their ability. Yeah.
You actually can't write that kind of gear though. Like he loves Haas so much, but he's also very realistic that they have there's a level to their ability.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So I like that. That's good. I could get around a second team maybe.
Yeah. Oh,
maybe.
skin.
Maybe. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, if you need any more convincing, as I was downloading this clip today, I found another clip in the shared Google Drive folder I've got with him from a few weeks ago. I must have missed this as we were writing the episode, but he has tried to convince you to join Haas before this week.
Oh, no.
You want to be supporting a real underdog. Somebody who has occasionally taken the fight to at least P5 or P4. You occasionally want to be feeling that rush of adrenaline when one of your cars makes it into Q3. Then Haas F1 are the team for you. You want to wear a cowboy hat? Go right ahead, partner. You want to dress it in an array of colours? Try black, blue and red. Do you want to be able to buy any sorts of merchandise, but not from the Formula One store because they don't do it from the Formula One store, that you have to go to the actual website of the Haas F1 team and buy the merchandise from there? Well, why not support Haas? Do you want the opportunity to not be able to buy a Formula One model car of your team, that you actually have to go and source a Ferrari RC model and paint them specifically in your team's colours because they don't sell them anywhere? Then you need to support Haas. You should be supporting our boys, Kevin Magnussen, Nico Hülkenberg and Ayu Komatsu. And I can tell you from first hand, they smell really good. I should know, I've met them. Haas, support Haas. Ah!
Okay.
Yeah, so if you weren't convinced before, I know you are now.
Yeah.
Because you've got so much time on your hands. No big events are coming up, so you've definitely got time to paint F1 cars.
That's exactly what I want to do.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
The most enthusiastic but potentially horrendous sales pitch ever. Do you want to do? And proceeds to list a bunch of things I do not want to do.
Yeah.
I have zero interest in a cowboy hat, I'll be honest, but thanks.
Oh, skin. Nah, yeah, I'm with you. But you know what? You can't blame a man for trying. He definitely also needs to get on commission with Haas. So, Ayo, however you say the guy's name, sort it out. Is that how you say his name? Ayo?
I don't know.
Ayo?
Who are we talking about?
The team principal, Ayo Komatsu.
The team principal of Haas?
Yeah.
You reckon I would know how to pronounce his name?
I have no fucking clue. Yeah, you still think it's Verstappen.
Yeah. What?
Okay, coming up in 2 weeks' time, Skin, we've got the Chinese Grand Prix.
Mm-hmm.
You've never experienced the Chinese Grand Prix, mainly because you've never experienced half the Grand Prix because you've only watched 5 races.
Yep.
But the Chinese Grand Prix...
The only upcoming Grand Prix I've experienced is Vegas.
Yeah.
And I experienced it from our couch. So,
Yeah. We've got a joint couch now. Shit, I didn't know our relationship was getting to that level, Skin.
Sorry. Sorry.
Megan, move out, please. Skin's moving in. Anyway, so yeah, the Chinese Grand Prix is coming up next week as this is launched. So this time next week, it will be free practice. We've had the Chinese Grand Prix on the calendar since 2004, but unfortunately in 2019, we didn't know at the time, it was going to be the last one for 4 years. Mm-hmm. Obviously, COVID hit and China was kind of the center of the epidemic. So we did not get to go back there until this year. It was on the calendar, I think, in 22 and 23, but it was just super last minute. They cancelled it and we just took it off the calendar and just didn't go.
Who cancelled it? Just the FIA?
I think the Chinese Grand Prix organisers cancelled it.
Oh, okay.
I think they greenlit it and then the government kept like putting them into lockdown and things like that. So they just, their hand was forced kind of thing.
Gotcha.
So I've decided to pick my top 3 moments from the Chinese Grand Prix history. Mm-hmm. Starting with, and I really hate to do this, but I really hate giving Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes praise. Because as you know, not my favorite driver, definitely not my favorite team. But what they pulled off in 2019 was so impressive that I could not leave this out of the list. So they did this in 2019. I've got it here, Charlie. They did this in 2019.
So box, 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 box. Box, box, box. So you're following Lewis in. Okay, don't make me lose time then.
When they feel the need to take that risk of a double stack.
Well, they are double stacking because Bottas is coming into the pits as well and he's waiting and they've got this absolutely spot on. Valtteri Bottas didn't have to slow down any more than he was required to with the 80 kilometres an hour speed limit. That was proper perfection. Just when one went out, the other one's ready to come back in again. It was like a production line.
And the choreography of that is sensational.
How the hell do they do that?
Yeah, I know.
That's not a common thing, I take it. You try and not double stack.
Yeah, no. Especially when they're that close to each other. I think the gap was less than 10 seconds, like maybe 7 or 8 seconds between the two drivers. So if there was a slight mess up on that pit stop, then they would be cooked. I'm pretty sure both pit stops under 3 seconds, like 2.5, 2.6, around that. Yeah. So like very impressive services for both cars.
Holy hell.
Yeah. So well done to Mercedes. Even at the time of that, which was probably my peak, that was probably my peak of hating Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes because they had just won for the 8th year in a row. And I was like, I'm so sick of this. Like, I don't want to watch this sport anymore. I hate them. Nah, it wasn't that bad. But yeah, that was my peak. And even at that point, me and my dad were sat there like, shit, like you've got to take your hat off to that. That is just amazing choreography and amazing performance from all of the mechanics and both drivers.
Yeah, that is ludicrous. Like, so they would almost never do that.
Yeah.
But I assume they'd still practice it all the time just in case. Like,
I don't know. Yeah, to be honest, I don't know. I don't imagine so because, why would you? I don't know. Maybe Mercedes were at that point practicing it, but Red Bull did it, I think, in the first race of this year, but the difference was that there was a 10-second gap or 15-second gap between Checo and Max, so a lot less impressive.
Yeah.
Like they had time to turn around, grab the other, whereas this one, it was like, as Lewis left, the guy that puts the new tyre on it was just, I can watch that a million times over and every single time I'm impressed by someone else in the video doing an amazing thing. The second clip I've got I had to make sure I got something in here where Lewis Hamilton wasn't being praised. So this is Lewis Hamilton crashing in Japan in 2007.
As it now, they come into the pits, and whose tyres have they been preparing? No, it's Alonso's tyres. They've got Alonso's tyres out in the pit lane. This is very strange. We'll see what they do at the moment. It's the dry tyre that they should be on, because everybody who's come in to put inters on again has gone much slower. And as you saw, Jenson Button is out there on dry. He's doing a good job.
Thank you, Ted. Into the pits anyway comes Lewis Hamilton. He goes straight on into the gravel trap. Can he keep the wheels spinning? Can he get some momentum going? No, he can't. It's all going to get away from him. He's not allowed to get a push. He's in the pit lane. Need to get the rule book out here and see if he can get a push in the pit lane. He's trying.
What the heck's happened?
Yeah. There's controversy around this one because in 2006, there was Spygate, which we'll go into in a whole separate thing. That's literally an entirely different thing. But McLaren were caught to be cheating and getting information from Ferrari from the previous year.
McLaren?
Yeah, and they were dominant. Yeah, sorry, Scott.
Hey, that's worth telling me before I decide to support the team. They're cheating bastards.
Well,
why would you mention that?
They weren't like cheating. We need to do an ep on it. But they were getting information from a Ferrari aerodynamicist or technical person from Ferrari. So basically in 2007, the rumors are, I'm not 100% if it's confirmed, but Bernie Ecclestone, the CEO of the sport at the time, made a deal with Ron Dennis, the team principal of McLaren at the time, that they would not win the championship. And I think they were disqualified from the Constructors' Championship. But he made a deal that Hamilton wouldn't win the World Championship. And this was a very big race because if Hamilton had won the race or finished on the podium, he would probably have won the championship. Right. So people say he binned it on purpose. He put it in the gravel on purpose and didn't finish the race because they had to. And then Kimi Räikkönen went on to win his World Championship.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But who knows? We'll do a lot more research into that and we'll actually do a little bit of a deep dive into McLaren's history and some of Ron Dennis's history at some point in the future. But yeah, very interesting crash.
Yeah, cool. No, I look forward to that deep dive. In the meantime, why? So he's in the gravel. Mm-hmm. Why can he just not move at all? Surely he gets some grip.
That's kind of the point of gravel traps, is that you will get stuck because it is small stones all around it. But if you look real fucking careful at the back of Lewis Hamilton's tyre on his back right side, you'll see there's like a white line down it. Back in the day, I think this was Bridgestone tyres that he's on here. The way that they would degrade is you would start to see the carcass of the tyre. So that's what that white is. It's literally the kind of fabric of the inside. The rubber has burnt out and that is now the fabric. So his tyres were dead. So he literally has zero grip on them tyres. So that's why he was also not gripping, because there was just nothing left on them.
Gotcha.
And our final clip, probably one of the most fucking confusing clips in Formula One history. I cannot explain this to you apart from the Google search I've done. So please don't ask me many questions. Okay. That's the most intro you need. This is Sebastian Buemi in 2007 going down the back straight at China.
Yeah, right.
What do you reckon?
I mean, his wheels fell off.
His wheels fell off.
That's what I reckon.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cooked there.
Yeah.
Yeah. They say it was a suspension failure, and then when he braked, the suspension like collapsed and his wheels popped. I don't know, but weird. It reminds me of just like when you would go on Grand Theft Auto as a kid and then your friend would be sat next to you with the other control putting cheat codes in and then your car would just explode or something.
Yeah, literally.
It's weird.
That is so bizarre.
Yeah. So they're my top 3 moments. That's my number 1 moment because it's just the most weird thing. It was in a nothing session as well. I'm sure it was a free practice session or something. So like Sebastian was absolutely fine and no one else obviously was involved. So yeah, just one of them odd crashes.
Okay. What year did you say that was?
That was 2010, that one. I think I may have said 2007 before. Lewis's was 2007. That was 2010.
Okay, no dramas.
So,
But that bolt that keeps the tyre on, when that was introduced post that, I take it.
No. We've had wheel nuts. No, wheel nuts have always been a thing on cars in general. But yeah.
Why did the wheels come off?
Because it didn't come off the. So you see how after they exploded, it was just like suspension prongs.
Yeah.
The entire wheel hub had come off. Yeah, so the thing the wheel is attached to came off with it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's hard to fix.
We also have something now called a tether, which tethers the wheels to the suspension. So if this was to ever happen again, they would pop off but stay attached to the car. So the tether is like a safety line.
Gotcha. Okay.
So yeah, we learned a lot of lessons in terms of tyre safety from that. Let's quickly finish off with meme of the week. Got a couple of memes in here. I've got one for Skin that he's already seen and ruined his reaction. And then he's got one for me, which I haven't seen yet. So mine comes from F1 Pappy. Confirmed, Carlos Sainz has said yes to Red Bull. The problem is that Red Bull didn't ask him a question, but he said yes to it. And there's a photo of Carlos Sainz with Helmut Marko, and they're both laughing at the Japanese Grand Prix. You like that, Skin?
I like it.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that reaction was pretty much the same as your first one, so I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah.
What have you got for me, Skin?
Okay, my little meme is pretty much just screenshots of the poor old social media manager at Alpine. Have you seen this?
Oh, I've not seen this.
He's copping a roasting in some of the comments. He just like gets comments from people saying, "You've got to do something about the car," and he says, "I manage social media. I'm not an engineer." Someone comments, "Don't get mad, get faster," and he says, "How does TikTok make a car faster?" Just this poor bloke is having a rough week.
Holy shit.
Unlike the car, you're doing a great job, admin. Don't make fun of our car.
He's turned it around. See what he's doing? That is so good. That is so good. Well done. I feel like the F1 social media managers are actually like Lee always replies to comments on our videos and tries to make a pun out of people's names and things like that. And he's so good at it. When I say our, I mean, we got the chocolates, not Formula Fools.
Yep.
But like some of these social media managers are like guru level responses.
Yeah. Yeah. They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Must be nice.
Yeah. They should probably get a job doing it. Oh, you see what?
Yeah, they are.
That's a classic little disco gag.
Yeah.
Anyway.
They have comfortable employment.
Yeah. Unless you're Williams.
Stable, you
then,
might say.
like.
Yeah. Then it's less stable. No,
we're sticking around. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're very stable. I don't know why I said that.
Yeah.
I just wanted to just bag on Williams one more time. Yeah.
They're shit, but they're hanging around.
Well, that wraps up another lap at the Formula Fools podcast. We hope you enjoyed your ride as much as we did. Oh, enjoyed your ride. Oh, enjoyed the ride as much as we did. Now it's your turn to join the Fools family by connecting with us on social media. On Facebook, we are Formula Fools, and on every other platform, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, we are Formula_Fools.
Yep. You can also drop us a rating or review. I think I've mentioned for a couple of weeks now, we're going to read out reviews. We still haven't done that. So yeah, apologies, but we'll get there. We'll get there. If you leave a review, it would be greatly appreciated, and we'll eventually read about. So yeah, preferably. And in terms of the rating, I mean, preferably the 5 stars, but I mean, up to you, obviously.
Yeah. I think we're actually cooking as well on Spotify. Like we're doing so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're doing really good. 34 5-star ratings on Spotify. So basically Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Mate, you may as well just retire because Formula Fools are coming for you, okay?
Look at us go.
Look at us.
Okay. But a couple more of those would be greatly appreciated. Yeah. Thank you.
Like more than a couple.
Yeah.
I want more than 36.
All right, 37.
Yeah. All right, 3. That'll do me. Thank you for joining us at Formula Fools, where every turn is a chance for a good laugh. Chad working hard there on the script. We'll see you next time.